the same religion. So how did you adapt? Did you learn how to cook? Have you found Indian restaurants? What is the solution to that?
Okay, so it's a combination for everything. I didn't know how to cook at all. I did learn to cook before coming, and I did video calls with my parents from India to France, matched our timings, and cooked at my apartment. Then, since we are Indians are everywhere, so I found Indian friends who would cook for me, and sometimes I'd cook for them. So we would have our meals together. The third one was that I took some packed food, like half cooked food from India itself. So that made my life much easier. And finally, I would say that in the initial days, I found some sources where I could find Indian food easily. And whenever I didn't feel not like cooking or I was short on time, I would just contact those restaurants or local shops and get my food.
Okay, so that's the way. But tell me, at ESSEC, you don't have, there's a canteen. You have vegetarian dishes? Yes, you have now. It's becoming common now in Europe to be vegetarian. Yeah.
Yes, in ESEC, there are some options, but I'll say the options are not enough. You need to go out of the college to get enough food for yourself. Plus,
Okay.
pizza is always there, so that's helpful.
By the way, you should ask to have vegetarian food at ESSEC because even among Europeans and Americans, it's something pretty common now. Basically,
Yes.
not for religious reasons, but people dietetic reasons, and also because people care about animal. For basically, many people care for the animal causes, so they don't want people to eat other human beings, to eat animals. Okay, so they are not religious, but it comes to something religious. Basically, um, Phalak, so can you introduce yourself to the others so that they know more about you?
Right. So, hi guys, I am Palak Jain. I am pursuing a master's degree from ESEC Business School, and of course, I'm pursuing a strategy and management of international business. And I have a background of commerce itself. I pursued my undergraduate from the University of Delhi. And talking about my professional background, I have pursued, I have a family business firstly, and my long-term goal is to expand the business itself. And I have pursued internships in EY as well as Harley. And yeah, that's most of it.
That's mostly okay. So, Phalak, you got accepted to UK school, etc. So, what brought you to choose ESSEC? And basically, me, I thought then when you chose ESSEC that you will study in Singapore. Okay, so
Right.
okay, it makes sense. It's not too far, etc. So, what brought you to study at ESSEC and to come to France?
So the first and the most important reason for me to choose France was because it was a France plus Singapore thing, and I wanted to do something different. I know a lot of people go to London so easily. I didn't want to be one of the crowd. I just wanted to be different. I wanted to try something new and more challenging. I knew France would be more difficult, and sure it is, but that's what the fun is. This is the time I can push myself, and no doubt it's been very beneficial. Over time, I've learned a different language almost. I've learned to deal with people out of my comfort zone, and the part that I was also put in was that since my long-term goal was to come back to India, say 6 years down the line, 7 years down the line, and build the business in India. So the 5 years of my studies and living abroad was more to expose myself to different environments. London, with so many Indians and so easy and comfortable for Indians, would have kept me in my comfort zone again. So since I believe that this is the opportunity for me to push myself, I chose to do something more difficult. That is France.
But tell me, Panache, imagine that I'm myself, I'm French, and I want to develop a business. Let's say I'm German, and I know that I want to develop the family business in Germany. Like you want to develop the family business in India. I would try to stay more in Germany to develop my network in Germany. Why not ISB? It's cheaper, more convenient, okay? And the ISB network is much bigger in India, okay? Is much bigger than the ISB, than the ESSEC network in India. No, what do you think?
So when I say I want to build on my family business, I don't mean to just keep it into India. I mean to take it global. I mean to take it beyond borders. And firstly, since I'm in the textile industry, Europe is one of the best markets for textile. That is why France. That is the center of fashion and art. And Singapore, because again, it keeps me close to the Asian market. So had I took the ISP option, I would have again constrained myself to the Indian environment and Indian people, Indian network. I want to be global. I want to have people who I know around the world. That is why I chose to go out and not just push for ISP.
Okay, so basically there's something that I want to share with you, all that are here, is that the advantage of these schools is that they have an advantage in if you decide to have a global career. Okay, if you want to stay in your own country, their network in your own country is pretty small, simply because I don't know how many Indians are there now at ESSEC. 50, if I say 50, yes, among all the
Oh,
masters,
I'll say like
something like 50.
120, 130 Indians.
Okay, bon. So, but it cannot be compared to ISB or IIM. Huh? Okay, but bon.
Right.
So by the way, the network is far from being small, because if you consider that these people stay 2 to 3 years, at the end it makes a network of 500. Another 20 years, it's a network of several thousands. Okay, but of course, so these programs are good because they will give you exposure to the world. They will make you international. So basically, they are really designed to give you, yes, to develop your international mindset, and also give you a global network. Okay, the ESSEC network is strong in France, in the UK probably, because you have a lot of French working in the UK, and I would say more or less in Hong Kong, okay, China probably, now India with several thousand, and most likely in the US. Okay, so
It's very popular in
that's
Italy
the
as well.
advantage. Sorry, where?
Italy.
Italy as well. Okay, in Italy as well. So and of course, if you're in the fashion business, it's a good thing to have. But basically, if you're looking for a strong network in your country, forget it. Okay. Now, if you're looking to have a global exposure and develop a global network where you can expect to have, I don't know, friends and colleagues in lots of cities, it can be of interest. Even though now the Indian diaspora is huge. So now the other advantage that you have staying at ESSEC is that you have like a 1 year visa to stay in France. Okay, and normally if you're like Phalak, if you're an intelligent guy, went to ESSEC, you have a 1 year visa, you can get a job. Okay. Now, the way it works is that if you find a job where you get paid more than 3,000 euros, which is probably half of what you can expect to be paid after ESSEC, so it's a very low salary, 3,000 in Europe for an ESSEC graduate is a low salary. You can expect to get what we call a permit B, and therefore to stay in Europe for 5 years. And after 5 years, you become a resident. So, of course, the advantage of all that is that we say having a resident permit in Europe while being Indian, it's not bad. By the way, there's a status that is growing a lot. It's called Overseas Indian Citizen, OIC. I'm sure that you have heard about this. Okay. And I was talking to the authority last time, and they told me that it is growing very, very fast. So you have more and more people who decide to be overseas Indian citizens, because usually what happens is that they get a second nationality. Now, basically, yes, the advantage of studying in Europe and working in Europe is that salaries are higher than in India. I would say 2 to 3 times more. Okay. And life, let's say, if you live a bit outside Paris, is not more expensive than in Delhi, because as you know, life in Delhi is expensive. Okay. So of course, so that's the thing. Palaksh, what is it to be far from the family? Because you're Indians, you have close-knit families. The family is a very strong value in India. We live in very conservative, very traditional societies. What is it far when you're Indian to be? What is it when you're Indian to be far from your family?
Well, that is a good point because it is my first time living separately from my family, and to be honest, you actually realize the importance of relationships. You realize the importance of always having people around, always having someone to talk to. You never go to bed alone. So those are the like minute things, but being Indian is a big plus because you always find Indian friends everywhere, and those they like everybody wants people from the same community, and when we meet each other, we feel home again. We can talk in our own language, we can make jokes about it, and do stuff. So it's true that you do miss your family in the beginning, but I'll say after a month or two, it kind of settles in, and Your friends are your most important fallback option, I'll say. You spend most of your time with your Indian friends, even though you want to network and all. And the other thing is about managing your day-to-day tasks yourselves. When you're in your like home, you don't even realize your clothes, your dishes, so much stuff just happens on your own. But when you're just living abroad and you're totally independent, you have to find time to do all that, and you need to push yourselves out of your bed to uh, do all the household chores. So that's challenging, but again, that's a learning in the long run.
Okay. You know, that's something that I've noticed, huh? Is that you Indians, you stay a bit together, huh? Okay, for many reasons, huh? Okay, and one of them is food. I noticed. I used to have a building where I was renting to my Indian interns, and yes, one of the reasons why they stay together is also because they like to cook certain dishes, so they spend a lot of time together, and cooking and eating and this type of ceremonial is very important in your culture. So that's something that you share. But of course, if you come there, try to mix with others. That's the whole idea of coming to Europe. Okay. Now you told me last time, I don't know what. So you told me last time that you have been traveling quite extensively. So which countries have you visited in Europe today?
Okay, so I have visited Belgium and I went to Amsterdam for the Halloweens. And we were actually planning to go to Spain this New Year's, but we all know the Omicron struck and we had to cancel those plans. But yes, by now I would have also gone to Spain and Italy had the coronavirus not struck.
It's still possible to travel, Manaksh. It's not difficult to travel if you're
Yes,
vaccinated. You can travel
yeah,
easily.
no, yeah,
No?
like for my Indian friends here, if you have Covishield, you are free to travel very easily. But with Covaxin, you will again have to get yourself vaccinated with either Pfizer or some European accepted vaccine, because even after WHO's approval, Covaxin is not accepted by France. Once you have your vaccine, it's very convenient.
Yeah, you just have to complete the form. It takes you 15 minutes. Huh?
Yeah.
Basically, if you're Indian and if you come to Europe, okay, get vaccines recognized by Europe, of course, by the authority here. But once you have them, okay, there is the hassle of writing, of applying for certificate because yeah, it takes you 15, 20 minutes. That's of course when you have been used to traveling like freely like me, because me I'm 51 years old, so all my life I've traveled for easily. I will be surprised, but well, that's something that you have to overcome. Huh? So what it is like for an Indian person like you to acclimate, to get in
The
through Europe? What
climate,
have been the three uh, biggest problem that you have faced coming to Europe?
in
The
terms of the
transition,
environment, the
yeah,
climate.
yeah, the environment, etc. It can be the climate, by the way, huh? Yeah, which is
So
of
I'll
course
tell you, the thing
colder.
is that in India, we don't have the concept of having heaters in our houses, whereas in Europe, you have heaters everywhere in every building. So the moment you are in a building, you don't need your coat. You can even walk in your shorts, despite it being like 2 degrees Celsius. But the moment you go out, you have your coat and you have your cap, you have your gloves and your ears, everything totally packed. It's so cold. Whereas in India, it's different. We just have the same clothing, irrespective of that. So the thing in Europe was that it's so windy, so cold all the time. You have to have yourself covered, and you just can't afford falling ill because it costs you a lot. Not only because of the medical expenses, but because you'll have to miss out on your classes, you'll have to restrict yourself to your room and then your chores and everything. So the super chilled Paris winter, I didn't have to actually face that. But even the part that I did live there, it was very cold and it's very windy. And in comparison to Delhi, I think it's definitely colder. Be prepared. Always have a coat on.
Okay, but so what our Indian students should consider is that the climate in Belgium or in France is called what is, let's say in Paris or in Brussels, is what we call semi-oceanic. Okay, and
Okay.
what Phalak has to understand is that it's not very cold compared to European standards. Okay, It's a bit humid, okay? But you have to see that Paris is not very far from the sea, Brussels as well, so that's why you have lots of wind, and it's quite humid. But I would say that the temperature in what we call winter is between 10 and 0 degrees, which is not very cold when you compare, for instance, I see that I have a colleague from Bulgaria who live in Russia, where in the summer you have 30, 35, and in winter it's minus 10, minus 20. Huh? You see, Phalak? So it is not even what we call a continental European. So continental European would be, I don't know, central Germany, all Central Europe is a continental climate. So it means very hot in winter, in summer, a bit like in Delhi, 30, 35, and very cold in winter. Okay, so basically, when you come to Europe, it's true that you're going to see that we have 4 seasons. We don't have moussons; it does not exist in Europe. So basically, you have summer, what is quite hot, but not that hot, between 25, 35 degrees. Okay, mostly 25. Then fall between 20 to 15, winter 10 to 0, and then spring 15 to 20. Huh? So basically, you really have 4 seasons. Okay. The teaching at ESSEC, is it very different from what you have experienced? How is it different?
It's very practical. Like the teaching in India is very theoretical based. You are supposed to learn and read and reproduce the learnings in writing in your exams. But in ESEC, it's very different in the sense that you don't really have very rigorous written exams. The teaching is more of practical based problems. For example, you'll have case studies and you'll have a lot of group work so that you interact with people from different nations and you learn to communicate and bring your ideas forward and you brainstorm on real business problems. And the assessment is simultaneous, so or even maybe just a small test at the end, but most of it is during the class. That is the major difference, I'll say, between the Indian and the European way of teaching in these renowned business schools. It is very exciting. You don't have the pressure of memorizing or learning stuff. You enjoy the class, you enjoy the material, and even if you talk about the material in particular, uh, it's very it's not constrained by the country's course or laws. It's with an international perspective, so you learn about how to deal with different cultures, how to conduct business in different countries. So that's very helpful and very insightful.
Okay. So basically, you have to understand that business schools in Europe, except in the UK, more or less, they are not part of the university. Okay, so for instance, Sri Shram College, okay, the famous one at the University of Delhi, is part of the University of Delhi somehow. Okay, but in Europe, ESSEC basically was created by businessmen, okay, by what we call Chamber of Commerce, who have decided that they were not happy by the way. So it was at the beginning of at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th century. They were not happy with the way, but they saw that there was no teaching of management. Okay, so they have decided to teach something called management. Okay, of course, universities it did not exist management at that time. Today you have a management school at the Sorbonne University, but in the 19th century you were taught what. She was taught like what we call humanities mainly in these universities, and humanities, some science, okay, but mainly that's what the country needed at that time, okay. And so these schools are highly practical because they have never been part of any university, okay. So now they tend to be part of them, which is probably not a good thing, okay, to do. But basically they were created to train managers, okay, who would then run the economy. Okay, what happened is that since companies love that, okay, they started to hire these people in the 20th century, okay, give them good salary. So it became, of course, a very trendy training to say, okay, look, if you go to ESSEC, companies will give you a job, you'll be well paid, and then people have been successful. That's the way they've built their success. From a different approach of education, and also from the success of their alumni. Okay, and business schools. So HEC is not part of any university, ESCP as well. So they are like independent. And by the way, they were created by the Chamber of Commerce that are extremely strong bodies in Europe because they manage all the business schools, okay? And also they manage airports and harbors, okay? And also they manage a specific tax on education, which means that the Chamber of Commerce are very powerful bodies in France. And the ESSEC Chamber, the ESSEC Business School is under the wing, the umbrella of the part of France called Val d'Oise, that is not Paris, that is a suburb of Paris. Okay, so ESSEC, by the way, is not based in Paris; it's a bit outside Paris, and people are a bit surprised. So tell me now, perhaps, how does how is the year structured between the Singapore campus and the Sergi Pontoise campus? Are you going to study there, or all your teaching will be in all your curriculum, all your tenure will be in France?
Okay, so the structure is such that for the SMIB program, the first year has to be in France, in Cergy, and even in that, the first 4 to 5 months we have our academic studies, and then we are supposed to pursue an internship for the next 5 to 6 months. And the second year you have an option to either continue in Cergy, or you can go to Singapore and pursue a second year there. The second year will be structured such that you'll have approximately 10 months of academic studies and then another internship for maybe say 4 to 6 months, which may or may not be a job directly. That is the way you have an option in the second year that you can either choose to continue in Surgery or go to Singapore.
And what will you do? You will continue in Singapore, or you will stay in France? Or Singapore is a nice place to be. No.
Yeah, I have planned to go to Singapore for the second year, but like because of this COVID thing, it is subject to change. I will most probably be in Singapore, say August this year.
Okay. So basically, by the way, what I advise to Indian students, if you go to ESSEC, spend year one in France and year two in Singapore. Why? Because probably it'll be easier to find a job there. Huh? Most likely. And also you be closer to home. Huh? Okay, so that's something that the advantage of ESSEC. By the way, ESSEC has a big edge. Huh? The fact that you have a campus in Singapore helps me. I find it stupid personally. Huh? If I were to create a business school, I would create it in India. Okay, because it will make more sense. I would create it me. If I were to create, I would create it in Bangalore. I would do something between France and Bangalore, because Bangalore, it's nice. It's the south, good food. Well, I find it's a good place to be. And sorry for the non-Bangalore. Or Mumbai could be a great place. Mumbai near the sea. Maybe Mumbai would be a good place. But they have decided to create them in Singapore. So Singapore, of course, is like the Switzerland of Asia, okay, for many reasons. But the weakness of Singapore is that there are few jobs available. Huh? It's a small city. Singapore, it's a city. It's a big city. Compared to Indian criteria, it's a small city, by the way. Huh? But for European, it's a big city. So basically, that's the thing that I see. But compared to, I don't know, to HEC or ESCP, I would say that Singapore as a ESSEC has a real edge for an Indian because of this possibility to study year one in France, get European country, go back to Singapore. If you don't find a job in Singapore, maybe come back to Europe. And of course, the advantage of Singapore is that Singapore is a purely English-speaking country. And I don't have the statistics, but last time I was in Singapore, I would say that 10% of the population is Indian in Singapore, 10, 15%.
Right.
So
Yes.
basically, you can create your network. You're vegetarian, no problem. You can live somehow like in India when you're in Singapore, okay? Which it was, and plus the weather is not like India, but it's closer to what you can expect to get in India. It's very hot, quite humid, etc. So Phalak, so can you tell me what you're studying now, what you have studied on year one at ESSEC?
So the strategy and management of international business. It's a master's degree.
But what have you studied specifically? Can you tell us more about your classes?
Okay, so we have classes very varying subjects. Began with the subject with geopolitics, talk about international affairs and how it affects businesses, business dealings, and between countries. Then we had another subject, international business economy. So talk about the monetary exchanges between two countries and how do you manage those fluctuations. And then we also had some subjects over sustainability, how it is a huge industry and how all the companies around the world are beginning to pursue and look at it as a necessity as we walk into the future. Then we have some more theoretical subjects such as principles of management and cost analysis and mm, okay, one of the very interesting subjects was the marketing subject, wherein we had a whole simulation of all of us were divided into teams and we had our own softwares. We were all given the same product and a certain fund, and now we had to compete amongst ourselves to market the product over 10 years, such that you are able to capture most of the market and earn most of profits out of the current market. And you had statistics about what kind of categories of people like what product. For example, the business category is more profitable, whereas the family category is the category that is more price sensitive. So this was one of the most interesting subjects of our course, wherein we had a whole simulation like a game, and we were competing amongst ourselves to be the best in the market. Yeah, that's most of those I can think of
That's
right
the
now.
thing that you have. So tell me, Palak, you see, sometimes I'm surprised by some Indians who tell me, I want uh, to come to India. They say to me, I want to come to Europe. Okay, so tell me, do you understand how Europe works? Can you explain to the Indians what you understand, what they call Europe and what it is in reality? I'm sure that you have classes about this, or you have investigated, so you understand that it is not a country in reality. So you sometimes Indians believe that Europe is like India, okay? And it's not true. It's geographically there is a place called Europe, but it's not a state. So can you explain what you understood after 6 months about what is Europe exactly?
So I'll just say Europe is like an India with the different states. You know, the way we have such diverse cultures. The moment you cross a state, for example, New Delhi people are very different from those in say Bangalore or Mumbai, and we are a country, but the only political difference, geographical difference between us is the states. That is how also Europe is. The moment you get out of France, you go to maybe the UK or Amsterdam. It's a completely different environment, different culture, different people. The only difference is they're two separate countries, whereas in India it's two different states. So on those demographic fronts, that's all the difference there is. They're just called different countries, they're called different states. And the moment you get out of the borders, it's different. Yes, but the working style is, I'll say, again, it varies with different countries. For example, uh, the French would not work, say, after 5 p.m., 6 p.m., whereas some other country in Europe, they might still continue to work after certain hours, despite not being paid. So uh, the work environment also differs the moment you cross that country, and it's for transportation, it's very fluid. Europe is like a big country that has smaller countries. Yeah.
Yes, so basically what you have to understand is that Europe is not a supranational state, okay? I don't know, for instance, when you consider Australia or Russia or US, you have the governor of the state. I'm sure that in India it's the same. You have someone who's the governor of the state, and depending on the country, you have more or less power. Okay, so for instance, what I've noticed is that in Australia, for instance, the governors of the countries have a lot of power. Okay, and then there's a prime minister who is managing the supra state. Okay, what you have to understand is that so Europe is a collection of independent states. Okay, that have decided to collaborate after the Second World War, for obvious reasons, and you have very few supranational entities. Okay, so basically the most known one is the European Central Bank that is in charge of the euro, and there are um, two others. So meaning that supranational entities, what I mean that they are independent and supranational. Okay. So that's why it's not a state. So that's why when I hear students saying I want to come to Europe, yeah, they could say more or less like the European community, for instance, but it's not. It's not one state, and it's very unlikely that one day it becomes one because Europeans don't agree on anything. Huh? But the only thing on which they agree on the euro, even though most of the countries in the European communities do not use the euro. Huh? Okay, the euro is not used in the Czech Republic, in Poland, in Bulgaria, etc. So it's not what you believe. Okay. What else can I say? So Phalak, have you finally changed your plan, or what are your plans now?
So right now I am going to begin my
Post ESSEC,
internship.
post ESSEC, post ESSEC. Your
I didn't
plans
get
post
it.
ESSEC
Sorry.
have changed, or not? They have remained the same. Usually, after 4 6 months in a business school, you change your plans. So, what are yours?
No, no, my plans remain the same right now, at least until now. I came in with the idea to build a strong network and gain the knowledge for to apply it in my own business, and it remains the same. It's just that right now I'll be pursuing my internship as per the course, and then I'll continue to Singapore as per my initial plan.
Okay, so that's the same as the initial plan. And your internship, India, Europe, Singapore. Where do you want to have your internship this summer?
I was initially considering Europe itself, but COVID has different plans. Like, I see that Europe is not very serious about the number of cases and safety concerns, so I might choose to pursue one in India, at least for this semester.
Okay. So basically, maybe some students have questions. So Aditya Kotari, you want to target ESSEC. So what are the questions that you have for Phalak? Aditya? Aditya?
Aditya, can you please come closer to the mic?
Yeah, we cannot hear you, Aditya. Yeah. Can you talk, Aditya? Aditya?
Okay, I'm. Yeah,
We
you
cannot hear
are,
you,
but like a
Aditya.
very low volume. I can hear
You're
you.
not audible, Aditya. Aditya? No,
Better.
it's not
Tell
fine
me.
at all.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'll repeat the question for you, doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's asked my GMAT score. It was 650, 650. At ESSEC, no, no scholarships. Yeah. So he's asking about my loan assistance, or you're asking about my
Mhm.
funding, right? The way I
Yeah.
funded my. Okay, so I am funding all of my education from my family, but there are plenty of loan options, and the most famous one is the Prodigy Finance.
Because if you study at ESSEC, ESSEC being a very good school, you can get a Prodigy Finance loan. Huh?
Also, Aditya, there's some disturbance from your end.
Hello, Aditya? I cannot hear you very well. So thank you, Aditya. So fine. So basically, Aniruddha Patil, Aniruddha, you have questions for us? Aniruddha? Aniruddha?
Hi, sir. No, I
Okay.
don't have any questions.
So basically, so the question is about funding. I guess, are you allowed to work while at ESSEC? Because some people ask us this question. If you are allowed to work, so to make some pocket money.
No, not during the program. You're not permitted to work, but there are certain student jobs that you can work as a student in the college itself. For example, an official student ambassador will be paid for its work while studying, and that's like 10 or 15 hours of work.
Per week as a student ambassador. I
Yeah.
thought that the rule is that you're allowed to work 20 hours per week. You're not allowed to work 20 hours per week? You're allowed to work 20 hours per week.
No, I don't think like I didn't
Yeah.
actually go out to know about this, but since our course is a full-time course, we might have classes from say 9 hours a day. So work won't be possible. If we
Well,
have certain days here, we begin our classes at 9 a.m. and finish at 7:30 p.m. So there's
okay.
no time.
So but it would be possible to have something on weekends, for instance. So basically, so that you know, it's possible to work 20 hours per week, okay? Which means that imagine that you have a cousin who lives in France, you paid your tuition, so you can get your pocket money from these 20 hours. So you're allowed to work. It's something very common in the US, everywhere. They allow students to work. Now, of course, it's a big difference between US and European and especially French programs is that in France, you'll have a lot of classes. So for instance, I have students who study at INSEAD and they tell me that it's sometimes very common that they have classes even on Sunday. And I don't know, I saw their agenda for January. There's not a single, once they went back to school, okay, there was not a single day where there was no class. So classes even on Sunday. Do you have classes on Sunday? So you have classes on Saturday, perhaps, sometimes?
We have classes on Saturday sometimes,
Huh?
but definitely not on Sundays.
Yeah, it's possible at INSEAD you can have classes on Sundays. So be ready for that. So yes, if you come to Europe, you can have 10 hours of class. It's something common because they believe that if you come to study here, you come to learn. Okay.
Right.
Last question for Fireflis Pinoco. Who is it? F. Fireflis Nokedbar Tiroko. I don't know. Who is it? Un handicap pratique. Can you please tell us about? Sorry. Can you please tell us about your interview experience? Yes. So, what was the interview experience, Balaksh?
The interviews are very smooth sailing, to be honest. If you are clear on what you want and if you can answer why are you going for the particular school. For example, I got accepted into ESCP, ESSEC, Imperial, and like the interviews are very receptive. You won't find intimidating interviewers who will bang you with questions. They'll be very smiling. They'll talk to you. It will be more of a discussion during the interview, and it's about 30 to 40 minutes of an interview, and they'll mostly discuss the common questions about why do you want to pursue this education, what's your background, and why do you think that that particular school is the best for you. One challenging thing about interview is when you have to do a video interview. For example, for Imperial, you don't actually have people in front of you who you can talk to. You just have a screen and you're looking at your own self, and you have a question and you're supposed to answer that question in that 1 minute. So it's a different thing, and it does get a little difficult. So if you're targeting schools that have those kind of interviews, I'll suggest that you prepare for those in advance. Otherwise, for the normal interviews, don't worry. Just be thorough with your essays and you'll be good to go.
It's true. So basically, yes, what you have to see is that some schools in the US, a lot of schools in the US, and some schools now in Europe use what we call a video interview. So basically, what they will have, which is by the way not bad. Okay, I find the video interview should become the norm personally. Okay, so basically what they do is that they will interview you. Okay, and in your file they will have your essays, your transcript, and your video interviews. I find it's more fair because that way they can really assess the level of the student usually. Okay, so the most common platform used for video interviews is called the Kira Talent platform. If you go on the MBA Center website and if you go on my blog, you see that we have video interview platform. Okay. Okay. So we explain, we have articles on this matter. So yes, that's something that you have to work on. Okay. At ESSEC they don't have video interviews, so it was with an alumni or a member of the committee for you? Was an alumni committee?
It was both. For LBS, it was with an alumni. For ESCP, it was ESCP and Izade. It was with the academic director or the faculty. And for Imperial, as I said, I was just talking to myself.
Okay. Okay. So basically, that's what we have. That's what we have. Huh? Okay. So that's something that that you have. So if you don't have any other question now, I guess Phalak has been with us for a long time. By the way, Phalak, if you don't mind, I have horses, and my horses are not far from Cergy-Pontoise. They're like 15 kilometers. So when I go to see my horses, I've not seen them for a long time. I will come to see you, and maybe could have like a sort of interview that we do something funny where you show us Sergi, you show us the school, you show us. We could do something a bit different. We talk with your friends. So I really want to give like an idea of what it is to study there. So basically,
Definitely.
Panache, what would you say? What would you say to finish? What are the piece of advice? What you like to share with students who came here today?
Okay, so first of all, I would like to congratulate all of those students who have finally decided or who are thinking that they want to pursue education abroad. I think it's a daring step, and having ambitions is the first step to actually achieving those. And you don't have to worry about the admissions. It's only it's only intimidating from the outside, but once you have a mentor and you have people to help you, it's pretty smooth. You just have to prepare your essays, and for your essays all you need is clarity of thought, clarity of your motive, and clarity to express your own self. You don't have to be the right person, you just have to be unique in your own self. Once you have those things ready, just submit those and you'll be accepted into everywhere you want. And well, best of luck to all of you.
Yeah. So don't forget, yes, of course, Panache was very nice to meet you. Don't forget that also getting a good GMAT is important, and without a good GMAT, first step is important, and of course, after that, the rest of the application, of course. But the first hurdle is the GMAT. When Panache told me 650, I knew that we could move forward. There was enough to move forward, huh? And try maybe to get even better than that. So thank you very much for coming, all of you. It was very nice to see you, and we stay in contact. Some of you are in class, yeah, whatever. Thank you very much, Phalak. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.